We will tie this all together in just a minute. Hang in there. But first of all, this story broke just a couple days ago. There was a girl, 12-year-old girl. That's a preteen, 12-year-old girl, living in Vienna, Austria, who said that there was a gang of boys ages 13 to 18. And for lack of a better term, we're going to come up with the term intimately abused. So rather than use the R word, which we can't use on some platforms because those platforms are controlled by the woke left who are really picky about words that you can and cannot use, which is part of thought reform in our opinion. But nonetheless, this 12-year-old girl made charges that the 17, what are we going to call them? Migrant minors is what the news report called them. Let's call them uninvited guest. Juvenile uninvited guest. That would be good. She accused them of, committing these heinous crimes for over a year. And she said that she was passed around like a trophy. So why didn't she go to the police? Well, according to her, she didn't go to the police because they had intimidated her with threats of exposing her to shame and embarrassment. Her family didn't know about what was going on. And, who are they going to believe? An Austrian girl or juvenile uninvited guest? Now, the reason we bring that story up, this is not about that story, it relates to it, is the fact that there was a survey, a poll taken in Austria that found a majority of Austrians, 56% to be exact, support the government in implementing zero asylum. No asylum for anybody going forward. I mean, the majority of people in Austria. Now, when you consider that the majority, or I should say the people in Austria, probably include a significant number of uninvited guests, this number is conflated a little bit. If they had just polled native Austrians, my guess is that number would be much higher. But you can only guess. You don't know. It could have been 60%, could have been 70%. You just don't know. But I think it's reasonable to believe that native Austrians are really upset about the so-called refugee program. I don't think they're refugees. I think they are, well, can I say invaders without getting dinged? Probably not, so I'm not going to call them invaders. But anyhow, the breakdown of the poll was this: 36% strongly agreed. That's a third of those polled. Another 20% somewhat agreed. So that's 56%. What about those who strongly disagreed? 18%. Only 18%. Of the 18%, how many of those were uninvited guests? Okay, refugees. Maybe all of them. I don't know. We got to take a look at the political affiliation and support of the political parties because that is important in Austria. You're probably familiar with the Austrian Freedom Party, or the FPO. Those voters overwhelmingly backed the concept of a zero asylum limit policy. Nobody can come in seeking asylum. 87%. I'm thinking, knowing the Austrian Freedom Party, I'm guessing the other 13% just didn't understand the question. Because that's what the Austrian Freedom Party, basically that's what they're all about, other things, but primarily is keeping the culture of their country secure. And then there were those, of course, who didn't like the zero policy. They want open borders for everyone. As we said, what was it, 18% or so strongly disagreed, and among those seemed to be the Green people. Which is not surprising because Greens tend to be delusional to begin with. They believe all kinds of weirdness, but we're not going to dig into that because that's a different story. So what is the story? The story is that the majority of people in Austria want zero asylum. Don't want anybody coming in seeking asylum. I mean, that is very restrictive, even for people, I guess, who honestly deserve it. The only way to stop it is to stop at 100%. Okay, let's tie all this together. First thing I want to know is this. Where are the feminists? So you have this 12-year-old girl who is obviously being abused. The police, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, those guys who were fingered for abusing this girl, all but one of them were released. I mean, they brought him in, questioned him, and let him go. And I got this 12-year-old girl living in fear. Not just of the 17 or 18 or however many the number was, I think it was 17, but their friends and people a part of their culture who hate this girl for, what would you call it, ratting on them or maybe tattling, however you want to say it. So where are the feminists? I thought feminists were supposed to care about. No, I guess not. If feminists were feminists, they would be feminine, but they're not. So I think they should be. I think feminist is a misnomer. They should be called masculinist. And here's something else we need to bring in as we tie this thing together. The issue here seemed to be, from the way the media presented it, was crime. But there's another issue that encompasses crime, but it's a much bigger issue. You know, the crime problem, not to be dismissive, but the crime problem is a segment of a much larger problem, and that is culture. They are decimating Austrian culture as they decimate Western culture altogether. These people hate, they despise. I'm talking about the woke left, not the uninvited guest. They absolutely hate Western culture. In particular, they hate the traditional family, because that is basically the fundamental infrastructure that holds Western culture together. And that may explain why feminists who are generally opposed to traditional families are, well, they just don't care. They're not raising a voice that I have heard anywhere about this little 12-year-old girl being intimately abused by 17, I keep forgetting what I call these people, uninvited juveniles, uninvited juvenile guests, into Austria. And if this is true in Austria, I wonder where else it is true. Probably throughout all of Western Europe. We'll see y'all next time.